it's the proudest day and the proudest time in the seat of a rally car, because that day and that hour and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett. That's all was said. I can still picture that run. That was just the best run ever.
Welcome along to Krunching Gears, the Rally Podcast, Season 2, Episode 20. Connor, that time of the week again?
Yes, indeed, Kevin. And I think we're still suffering Donegal blues.
We surely are. This week we're going to continue to look back at Donegal. We're going to review it, catch up with Matt Edwards, Dave Moynihan, Garry Jennings, and then Meirion Evans also joins us as well halfway through that chat. And then the two-wheel drive, we look back at that, then we catch up with Kevin Gallagher, Johnny Jordan, Eddie Doherty, Lauren Kelly, and Richard Moffett. And then as well as that, then Ypres was on last weekend, catch up with Jay Coleman, who had a great run there, and Rally 4 Fiesta. And then finally, just as we were recording the podcast, news breaking there this afternoon, or today is Wednesday, I suppose. So Wednesday afternoon, that William Creighton and Patrick O'Brien are both doing the next round of the ERC, but more about that later anyway. But Connor, we had the pleasure of catching up with some of the top four-wheel drive and some of the top two-wheel drive crews from Donegal. Yes, we are in Donegal blues, but that was such an epic battle, and it was great to hear the stories.
Look, it was fabulous battles all round. It was a great weekend, a good combination of things throwing into the mix, from new stages through to the weather, tire choices, everything. And it was great to get the inside stories and fair play to the lads. Like they were honest about what went on in the weekend and how they tackled it, and it was great to have those conversations. Definitely,
you have to admire the way the honesty. They did everything bare. There was no hiding places, there was no back doors or anything. We felt we could ask them nothing, and we got an honest response to it, and that's all we can ask for.
Absolutely, it is, and that's the insights people want to hear. We've gone beyond just watching the clips and on YouTube and wherever else of them competing on the stages. We're now looking for the background and the bit of story and the bit of gossip and the bit of extra information, and thankfully they're happy to share it with us.
That's for sure. So anyway, I think first of all we'll catch up with the four-wheel drive guys. So over to Matt Edwards to start us off.
No, so we still haven't settled the score. Well, no, we have to a great extent, to be honest. We had on the whole a really good event, really positive, and Friday wasn't brilliant. It was a bit of a confidence knock and a bit of a didn't really know how to get back from there psychologically as much as anything else. I remember coming out of Garry on the Saturday morning thinking, I said to Dave, I don't think I've got what I once had, I think was the quote. Things weren't coming that great, even with the car fixed, with slippery conditions and everything. So, but a bit of familiarity with Knockalla, and it just started to click then. And as the confidence grew in the car with slightly better conditions, and all in all, really happy with how it all panned out, and lots of positives to take going forward.
Yeah, but that first stage, Friday, just after Friday lunchtime, your heart must have sunk. Was it diff problems you were having, or?
Yeah, it's I think it's a problem people with that sort of car are now looking into and learning a bit about. For the people that haven't maybe used them for as long as the likes of Melbourne, but it's basically a clutch pack in the prop that looks after the disconnect for the handbrake. Some sort of torque, plated diff essentially that was maybe playing up or lacking pressure or worn slightly, that gives a feeling that it's not quite how it should be, shall we say. And there was an instance in the middle of that first stage, just after we handbraked it for the first time, that we got a vibration out the back, and then 30 seconds later it wasn't an uncontrolled sort of lurch across the road, but it just all of a sudden felt very different, and I was about to pull a gear and put my hand back on the wheel as if to sort of catch it, but from then on, it was a bit of catch up for sure.
Yeah. And Dave, from like your point of view, all the hard work, all the effort, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Like, it must have just knocked you sideways.
Nearly time to go home, Kevin. 20. We struggled to pull back the 5 or 6 seconds on Callum last year, and then to be 25 down after the first stage and 10th overall, you're on the back foot straight away. But here we still, I think once Mac got the reassurance in the first service that it wasn't actually something was going to, something was broken, or it wasn't something was going to fall off or put you over a hedge, he was then fit to adapt and drive accordingly to manage it to a certain degree. And then it just came frustrating. You were still hemorrhaging time, no matter how hard you were trying. And I think it was like a minute and 10 down before we started putting any time back on anybody. So, but here it's just one of those things. Something you can't. It's not even a component that Melvin or his lads would open to check or to rebuild. It's something that's it's a trouble-free part in most cases. I think it's only Eric Weaver's or Volkswagen that would have had the tool or the jig to test it or to reset it or to rebuild it. So it's totally outside their control, not something you'd know. And then we knew something was wrong, because the question was asked, mostly the same to test, but it wasn't, because after that first hairpin, the vibration you felt, it was like a drive shaft. That's what it felt like a shaft was gone. Obviously, Matt felt a lot more from the driving instance than I did in past side, but you just felt the vibration.
And Garry, you were the complete opposite. You had a flyer on the first stage, and that really set the tone for Friday and Saturday for you. You were on the pace with the Callum and Josh and these guys. You were nipping at their heels.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the new stages on Friday. I think that's really what showed. We made new pace notes for Friday, and then really we're still using the old pace notes from the Subaru days on the Saturday and Sunday, and we just were too lazy on a recce, and they just weren't up to speed. And it showed on Friday. Our notes were very, very good, and yeah, I enjoyed Friday's new stages. And as Matt says, then once we get into Saturday evening, Sunday, the boys with a bit of familiarity or knew where they were going. I just couldn't take any more of them risks.
And that's what the way Irish Rally has got now. It's you can't give away a minute, you can't give away 10 seconds, you can't give away nothing now at all.
No, without a doubt. I think that's the way Irish Rally's went this last 2 years. Maybe going back 10 years ago, if you're into Sunday a minute down, you wouldn't really worry about it. You could take it back, but not now with everybody being so competitive. I think the top 10 or 15 cars now in the Irish Championships, very, very competitive. And I think just Saturday night, we took a couple of risks on Saturday night to get back up on the pace, and then just on Sunday just didn't feel right. There was some car troubles, and Sunday at the Singing Pub, the car stopped 3 times on us, but I was just the way I was driving. It was over boosting the car, and then the pop-off valve was reacting. The car was going into limp mode. So we were very lucky probably to get through that stage, and just coasted through the last stage, and the car on the 3 cylinders then for the road section over the ramp. But I've been chatting to Neil, who runs the car there, and he's done a compression test, so the engine's fine. It's just a fault that the car had, and instead of doing any damage, put herself on the 3 cylinders. So yeah, she'll be okay hopefully.
Good. And I was speaking to you there on Saturday evening in Park Fermat, and you were saying that you were pushing them last 2 stages Saturday evening. There were 2 of the biggest crashes you never had, almost, kind of thing.
Without a doubt, and I think I woke up maybe on Saturday night a couple of times thinking about them, and I says, look, it's really worth it pushing to that edge. And I never really pushed that far before. I didn't push on Friday. I was very confident on Friday, but I felt it on Saturday. It just wasn't that we're pushing outside our limit, but we were all on wet tyres in drying conditions. And I know Matt was sampling crossing wets with slick tyres and stuff, and I didn't do that. I just stayed on the wet tyres. And a corner's a lot different when you're coming out at high speed and a wet tyre on a dry road compared to putting on a slick tyre. And we got two of the biggest scares I've ever had it, in close succession. So no, Sunday was just a matter of getting through the finish. But no, we go back opposite as Matt. We flew on Friday where Matt sat back, and then hats off to them. They really went hard on Saturday evening and Sunday when the pace had a very, very hot day.
For sure. And Matt, what was your impression of the new stages? I know you hadn't the best of luck on them, but what was your impression of the stages?
I quite like the nature of them. Yeah, there's a lot in them, a lot of driving in them. Particularly the first one was a very difficult stage to go back into sort of competition again with, but it's all the sort of stuff I generally like in a in a stage, all in one go, really. The fast stuff, slow stuff, bumps, hairpins and narrow, wider. It just had everything. And I felt I had a good run through there, I'd have learned, even if I'd given away 10 seconds, I'd have learned as much as I needed to about the car again in that stage to then, attack on the next 2 or 3 and then the second loop. But, as it was a bit of a different story. And we got, 3/4 of the way through, and it was just, right, let's get to the end without dropping too much, get it checked out. And, as David said, once we got through service and we put the rear diff in, it was at least confidence that everything was fixed on properly. And, because the sensation was that something could go at any time. And that's quite an unnerving sort of situation. You don't know if you're going to press the brake pedal and it's going to swap ends, or it's, the actual mechanical fault was fairly minor, really. But the actual mental side of it, not knowing what could happen next, just would probably cost us more time than the actual physical mechanical problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Garry mentioned there, you pulled the master stroke, then got into the Saturday afternoon with the tires. Like, was that your experience of working with Pirelli, give you the confidence to do that, or was it just a roll of the dice?
I wouldn't say I necessarily had the confidence to do it as such, but I think it was a multitude of factors that sort of gave us that idea. And we did run the first 2 stages of the loop in on the wet, and then put the cross on for Knockalla, and that was probably I think it's one of the first stages I've ever done on a cross. I've never really done it before, but we knew we had to have a slightly harder package on tyres for that stage, and carrying that option in the boot seemed like a logical step, and it was worth a go because we wanted to pull back time. So doing the same as everybody else was never going to give us that advantage. So once we did that and we got a bit of confidence with it, the first part of that stage is very good for learning that, because it's quite wide. You can play with the car a little bit and feel where it's going to give away first, and which corner you wanted the soft one on, which one you wanted the slick on. And it was a good, learned a lot in one stage really about the car, and we used that to our advantage for the next day and a half to maximize what we could with the changing conditions.
Yeah, and talking to other drivers, that's just something they do in the WRC, or you hear Lowbook crossing tires, but it's not something that's really ever happened probably in Ireland an awful lot. We've seen what you've done with the Polo and the Ulster a few years ago, the Citra, and then last year in Donegal. This is going to be something that other people's going to be looking at now going forward as well.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, I mean, it was a weird situation, because I think had we been closer to the front, we'd have probably just stayed the same and not bothered making the change. But I just felt at that point, I felt comfortable. The car was fine. I was, the confidence was back. And I just thought, well, I feel comfortable enough with the car that even if it's not a forward step, it's not going to make us totally uncompetitive in one stage. So we just had a go at it. And we did some other things with clicks at the same time as the crossing the tyres. And, we were happy to just go with the next step of tyre on the Carnhill Garry Gort last couple of stages. And, that's where we made the big claims back in time. And, it gave us a lot of confidence, to have made a fairly bold decision, and it paid off. And, it's just nice to feel comfortable with the car to do that, really.
Yeah. And Dave, from your point of view, you talk about confidence in the car. Could you feel it there, on that run over Knockalla, you were quicker than everybody else, that, this was it, this is what you come back to do?
I wasn't best pleased how he made his decision where the slick was going, Kevin, be honest with you. Put it this way, it wasn't going on my side, yeah. But no, definitely. Here you can, when he is confident, because where the braking points are, the corner speed, and even at the test before, they said, you come from the car, once the driver's happy, you're happy. Once he's the confidence to go and push harder, that's all a car ever needs. He's happy, you're happy. And that was the same, be it on Saturday afternoon or even Sunday morning. Before we started the event, Matt was totally against using the 5, but everyone around us going the hard tires, so we followed suit. And I think it was not far before the village, I asked him, "Were you all right?" Because obviously it was all new, and he replied saying, "Yeah," and he was happy. So you knew then that the push was on. But wasn't everything when it comes from the car, the drivers, the frame mind he's in, where he's carrying the speed or he's not carrying the speed. And when he's carrying the speed, he's comfortable. So, No, it was good, definitely, and it was a massive relief to see the stage time. The first time through Knockalla, even though it was only a second or point something of a second from Callum, it was a faster stage time, and that was the boost in confidence he needed to know that the issue we've been carrying wasn't an issue in his head, that it was actually an issue in the car. And once we that stage time, it rolled on from there to Cairn Hill again and Gary Gort again, with a small problem. And Kerry Keel and Matt went to turn right for the third time. They had to Knockalla, but we weren't going to Knockalla the third
time. As much as you wanted to, you weren't allowed.
No, we weren't allowed to. No.
And can I jump in there for a second, Kevin? Matt, like the first run in Knockalla was delayed. It was nearly 50 minutes, I think, or whatever. So you're sitting there, cold tires, cold brakes. How do you keep that from unsettling you, and especially as the weather had changed as well just before that run too, the roads were damp.
Yeah, I think the benefit of the first run there, we were all still on the full wet, so it wasn't so much that wet tire just comes straight in, and the temperature was there, so we never really felt a problem with the tire on that Knockalla stage. It's a bigger problem when you're on a hard tire and sort of at the lower limit of that, if you like. But I don't think there's a worse place to be stood for an hour as well, because you're looking at probably one of the most daunting stages in Ireland, especially the first fast left, and it's quite intimidating. So I just generally face the other way and chat with the lads. But it's an iconic stage, for me. It's the one stage that when somebody says Donegal, it's the stage I think of, and it doesn't take long. Like I say, it's a nice bit of road to warm a tire up on, because you've got some good long fast corners and two tight ones that with a bit of space, so you can sort of induce a bit of heat there before the scariest right-hander in the world coming up afterwards.
Knockalla has that natural amphitheatre, where you have the crowds lining it at the start, and then as you climb the hill, the crowds are on the hill. Do you get that energy coming off the crowd going up the hill?
I'm probably going to be controversial, not give you the answer you want. I don't. It's amazing what you don't see as a driver or co-driver in a rally car. All I look at is where I'm turning in, where I'm braking, and that's it. You don't actually see a single thing, even in the relatively slow climb up the hill after the first hairpin. I'm just looking straight to where I'm pressing the brake pedal next. So there's people there, but you don't actually see anything. It's a bizarre sort of, it's this tunnel vision thing that we've gone on about before. You don't see anything outside of that. It's quite strange, really.
Yeah,
Garry sees them.
He's waving at
the Mark, he's braking and I'm going sideways.
And the clutch a kick.
Yeah. Joe Dunlop always used to talk about, there was a green blur and a grey blur, and he tried to keep on the grey blur. And I suppose that's where you're at. You've just got the vision of what, where you're at on the road and where you need to be.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I guess it's just what you're used to doing, and my main point of focus is where I'm going to brake. I'm not even thinking about the corner, because to me, if I brake in the right place, the corner's sort of taken care of. So, that's from one point to the next. That's all I'm looking at really, is where I'm going to need to brake, and that's where the surface and the tires and things are quite important. And once you've got some heat in the brakes and that transfers through, it's relatively simple. But it's when you're going through like Fanad on the Sunday and you're on a 5 and you come around a corner and it's completely wet, and it's like, it's not just one step of tire, you're 4 steps of tire off what you should be on at that point. And you've just got to again then read the road to see the smooth bits, the shiny bits, and then the grippy bits, and go as hard as you dare on the grippy bits to keep a bit of heat in for the shiny bits. And credit to Dave on Atlantic Drive as well, because we had a downpour in there again on the wrong tire, and in his experience of that road, those road networks, is like, right, this is good road, this is a shiny road, then you're back onto a grippier road, and literally adapting the speed that you're carrying in an instant for the type of road you're on, and then to be able to go back onto the upper pace, if you like, for a good road. And it's quite hard, but it's a part of that rally, and tarmac rallying that I really enjoy, is the sort of discipline side of managing the conditions when it's changeable, and you're not on the right tire, and then you've got choices to make. And although it's hell at the time, it's rewarding to get it right.
Yeah, and Dave, like that Saturday afternoon, whenever the time started to come, like all of a sudden, you know, you had Sam Moffett, you had Meirion Evans and these guys looking over your shoulder. Like, does that, you know, does there been energy in the car then, you know, is it like, you know, how far up the leaderboard can we climb here now?
You here from the first stage, you drop 25, you're never winning the rally, you know, unless you somebody else's misfortune, like, you know, not taking Josh's win away from last year. You know, he with so I was watching back at some of Killian's interviews from the weekend, and he says that Josh started Sunday last year, points something second further off the lead than we were this year. You're 48 or 48 off the lead and won the rally. Like Garry said, you don't pull that back in Irish rallying anymore. It's just not there. Those differences in speed aren't there. So you're not hoping, but you're relying on someone else's misfortune to get the results. But in reality, you know, the target, once we started getting the loop, that 3 stages, Knockalla, Carnhill, Garry, Gort, well then, you know, Sam was the target. But even starting behind him Sunday morning, and it's only 5 or 6 seconds, it's still not a straightforward move, because you're heading to a stage where Sam had the knowledge and Matt didn't, you know, through Glen, Atlantic Drive, the second half of Fanna, there were stages he never drove before, competitively. So, and these boys have years of experience behind them on those roads. But yeah, the podium was definitely the target. That was the aim.
Meirion, then, you're just after joining us there. Like the rally developed, as we chatted to the other guys here, the new stages on the Friday was sort of like a real good challenge, you know, enjoyable stages. And then the weather changed then, you know, Saturday morning, and that provided a whole other new challenge as well.
Yeah, the Friday stages were tricky. Probably like for me and probably Matt as well. Maybe so we weren't just sharp enough to really get at it on Friday, and I think for me just left me behind a bit, you know. Then Saturday when the weather came, yeah, maybe just I wasn't quite brave enough with the tyre calls and stuff, but yeah, you know, very, very tricky Donegal. Like usually at least you get one sort of full dry day, no problems, you know, but I suppose Friday was one of those, but with the stages being the way they were, it just added sort of something else to it. But yeah, over the classic stages, it was all very different. But and I suppose it's a good thing because there's so much racing on those stages now. Like a lot of boys know them so well. I mean, they don't change that much. So to add a mix of weather in, it was probably a good thing in some ways as well.
Mm-hmm. And like Matt was describing, you know, how he was able to cross the tyres and all, and it was the first time he'd really tried that, like on a tarmac stage. Like this could be something that could be looked up with, you know, the likes of yourself, you know, Callum, Josh, and that. Like it tends
doesn't work on a Michelin, Meirion. I wouldn't bother.
No, it wouldn't work. No, they haven't got the choice, Kevin.
But you know, we've seen it before. Matt sort of, you know, tries things, and all of a sudden everybody else wants to give it a go then as well. Would it be something that you might look into in the future, as crossing tyres in those changeable conditions?
I've done it before. Struggled a bit on it, but it was the first time I ever did it as well, and I haven't really needed to do it since. But yeah, I mean, obviously Matt showed, I think being brave or making a call like that can definitely have a big benefit, because if you look at, I think midday on Saturday, Matt was just behind me, and then like made a brave call, and by the end of that day he's 5 seconds behind Sam, you know. And it may be bad to say this, but realistically, kind of if you could get ahead of Sam, there was a chance with the way Callum and Josh were racing that he would finish second at least, you know. So yeah, he put himself in that position, to be fair, just by just putting himself out there and taking a chance probably. But I guess the other thing is Matt hasn't got a championship to worry about, whereas I think if any of the other ones of us got it badly wrong, then maybe it has a bigger bearing on our year, you know, especially mine after losing around in Killarney as well.
Mm-hmm. And Garry, like, you know, that, you know, these other guys about how, you know, being brave and all that there, like, you know, how would we say it? You're not in your flush of youth. Is it difficult to, you know, throw your balls up in the dashboard and, you know, go full tilt, or do you still have that no fear attitude to your rally?
We did it on Friday.
We did it on Friday and watched. No, it's not that there. Matt came out for a run in the car on like Wednesday night and Alistair Fisher, you know, and we had an M-Sport engineer there, and he made big changes to the car. I think that's why I felt so confident on Friday. You know, that short test, that's a 2 mile road. It wasn't a big test, but I just got so much confidence in the car. As Meirion says, I was ready for it Friday morning for a full attack. But it's like all these fellas now, when they get up to speed, come Saturday, come into Sunday. And Meirion used a funny word there. He said race. You know, to me, Friday was a rally. Saturday and Sunday now in Donegal become a race because everybody knows every corner. You know, the cars have been lowered down, they've been hardened. There's no real bumps or jumps. Where Friday was a rally, and then Saturday, even Sunday now, is a race. And that's just the way the rally has developed. You know, over this last couple of years, the surface have changed. They've resurfaced the stages, they're grippier at hard, stuff like that. So yeah, it is the age thing I think does matter. I was chatting to Derek McGarty there yesterday, but like he's 35 years older than me. Like he was saying the same thing, but no, I'm still a young one yet.
Okay.
I think you'll know about that.
I want what you do in my account, so. And like Matt, you know, like as you know, as Meirion said, like the way that Callum and Josh were going, it was going to be difficult for the two of them to get to the end because there was no, you know, quarter given, and like so unfortunate for Josh, the conditions just on Fanad just were like a torrential downpour. Really, was the only way you could describe that. Really.
Yeah, it was a shock because it was dry at the start, and then we came past through the new section and then out into the similar piece of stage to previous years, and it was really wet. Unfortunately, we caught it just in a place where I could judge it. Because we came up, the first corner I had that was wet was a tight right, you know, and it's like, oh, this better stop because it went from bone dry to very wet in no time. And I probably had the worst of the wet. I probably had a bit longer of the stage than the other guys with the wet, but that gave me a bit more time to adapt. And I think Josh probably came across a poorer surface part of the stage, you know, first with his wet, and yeah, he paid the price on a bit of an innocuous corner. Really, he's obviously just lost the back a little bit, and you know, it was an unfortunate incident. And you know, I don't think he'll have done a lot wrong to have come to grief where he did, really. But you know, we were into that stage, and we knew really we weren't going to challenge for the win unless something happened. But it's almost an easier, like Meirion said, I had nothing to lose. There was nothing really to consider. It was just go as hard as we can, as safe as we can, for as long as we can. And you know, it was a very simple mindset really to just drive like that rather than think about any championship and things. So it was just really enjoyable. And you know, those stages, you know, Garry says they're like a racetrack, but it's such a pleasure to drive when the car's feeling good, and you know, you can be nice and smooth and pick your lines like a racetrack, and you know, it's a rewarding experience to string a stage like that together.
Yeah, you know, like we spoke before about, you know, how, you know, an R5 or a Rally 2 car, when you have roads like that and conditions like that, like there's nothing better to drive.
No, there isn't. It's some experience. Like I said, I've said before that the capability of those cars, corner speed wise and brakes, and you know I probably don't use the brakes as late as other guys, but you know, the corner speed added with the jumps and the amount of time you're actually off the deck is you have to detach a bit of your understanding of physics to go that fast.
And like what really brought it home to me, we were in Glen Village for the second pass, and like there was a sure come on, and like the sure only maybe lasted maybe 15-20 seconds, but you guys were coming down the stage and maybe, you know, 4 or 5 minutes later, and you were coming down into the village to turn up past the pub, and the back end was stepping out, like it was, and you thought, you know, to me it was like that was a wee quick, you know, it's a nothing, that sure, you know, it passed as quick as it come, but it just showed you how difficult the road conditions are, how quick they can change.
Yeah, we were geared up probably softer than the other guys with a medium and an intermediate crossed, and we were kind of hoping for rain, really. You know, that did play into our hands right on the start line, but the difference just even a damp surface makes to that sort of tyre choice, and then you've got full rain bouncing off the bonnet, and you come into a section like that that's already been used with the rubber all over the floor. And to be fair, Dave made a really good call coming into that it would be more slippy than expected, and no sooner as he said that, I just breathed on the brake pedal and it all started chattering and going quiet, and you think, right, I've got to get this turned in now. And, you know, fortunately I just slowed up enough early enough to get around. But yeah, it's the difference it makes to those cars because the limit is so high. It doesn't take much to lower that limit quite considerably.
Yeah, and like Gary, yourself too. Like, you know, that coming out of Glen Village, you know, down the street, turning up for the pub. Like, you stepped away out at the back end. It's just like, I couldn't believe just how little the little rain was, how much a difference it made to the road condition.
Yeah, but Kevin, people don't realise we probably had the worst rain at the start of that stage that you'll ever come across in rallying. Like, we couldn't see the bonnet, and this carried on for maybe 3 or 4 kilometers. And the only reason I could see the rain lifting is because I could see a helicopter. I could see people at the helicopter standing out, so I knew where the helicopter is. There's no rain, and that's because you couldn't see the road. That there was a steam coming up, and then with no rain, and it dried. And then we're going to Glen Village, and it's just like a skating rink. And as Matt says, it's only for experience that we know that the Glen Village is so wet. And like, I actually braked far too early, and you said the car just stepped out. It just snaked down the road, and yeah, it's as Matt says, it's one of them things you just have to turn in the best and try and get up that hill, because not only can you overshoot in the village, but also you take a wheel off to get in the pub there, very, very handy. So it's definitely a tricky spot.
For sure. And Meirion, like, those conditions on Sunday, like, probably some of the trickiest you've driven there in a long time.
Yeah, it was. The bad thing for me was I had 2 like very soft tires in the boot, and we said no. It's because we had a shower when we were doing the tire pressures about probably 2-3 kilometers back from the stage, and it was nothing really, you know. And we got to the stage and sat there for about 10 minutes, and then it started to just spit when we were putting our helmets on to get into the car, and we just said, "Oh, it's the same shower we've just had 5 minutes ago. It'll be fine." And then, like, the heavens properly opened, you know. So yeah, like the worst thing was you couldn't see anything for the first few Ks, and then when you could see, you just knew you had absolutely no grip underneath you because you're on like a medium or a hard tire, and you know they're not even designed to work in the damp, let alone when there's standing water on every corner. So yeah, it's probably like one of the worst scenarios you could ever think of, really. But I think you just have to adapt, and it probably teaches you quite a bit as well.
For sure, yeah. And like Dave, you know, Matt there's paying tribute to your experience. Like, you know, you've done Donegal a few years, you know, like, you know where it's going to be shiny tar and one thing and another. Like, it's nice to be able to bring something like that to the party.
No, I remember Garry spun in Glen Village.
Many times.
Yeah, I was going to say,
And then the other piece of what he's talking about that drive is at the hairpin left where Nesbitt overshot in the Mitsubishi.
Yes.
Or the opposite year where Kevin Lynch ended up in the woman's front garden.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just notorious places, and it's more from watching it than from watching the videos and knowing it's really slippy. But here it's just an extra pair of eyes. I suppose it's more than anything else. Showing you're judging the surface or seeing the surface. So I just in my own head knew we slippy in the village. So it's never overly grippy in the village.
Yeah.
And even going watching back videos that are donkeys years old, it's always been slippy and going down into the village up the hill. So that was just that kind of a call. But it was more, maybe it was a more a nervous call more than a wise call, you know. I didn't fancy spending the rest of the day in that pub, I know.
No, you sure you stopped at the second pub?
No, Nick, just need what you wouldn't.
Convenient.
I stopped at the second pub and I says, "Rory, where you going?" He said, "I'm getting out to put the OK board up." I says, "She might start again." And then I says, "But the second pub is over there, Rory. Doesn't start to get out." I don't know.
Probably Rory started the car. You told Rory it was his ride. Did he get the car started? Did he?
That's why I go back in again.
I'll never forget Rory saying that the tyres you had on going into Garry Gort were totally inappropriate for the conditions. It was hilarious.
And I suppose we should ask Matt, you know, pulling up to the start of Atlantic Drive, do you have to blank last year out of your head completely, or is there still that wee thought?
Are they blanked out for us, Kevin? They put all the start vehicles and the rescue vehicles all across that
wall. Somebody painted the curb red though on the right hander before. I don't know who's done that and why, because it obviously wasn't competitive. I don't know. It didn't really bother me, to be honest. It didn't make any difference to how we approached the stage or anything. And I think I had in the back of my mind, you know, even after the accident last year, that I hadn't arrived at a corner 30 mile an hour too quick and made a major misjudgment. It was the perfect storm, really, clipping the curb and then the next corner being immediately there and all the rest of it. It wasn't, yes, I'd made a minor mistake cutting the corner or getting too close to the curb, but it wasn't like I'd lost control over bumps and misjudged something catastrophically that had caused the accident. So it was, even on the recce, we wouldn't have been able to cut the right-hander because you'd have been in oncoming traffic, and there's lots of reasons that it may, could have not happened on another day. So, fortunately, I haven't got a reputation or a habit of making mistakes. So, I just treated it like another stage, trusted the notes that, we hadn't really changed since the year before. And it was some stage, the in-car of certainly the second pass is something else with the notes coming out and relentless corners. But, once you've pulled a couple of gears off the start line, you've got no choice but to concentrate on what's coming up next. So it's from that point of view, I've always been able to sort of compartmentalize things that are going on and just drive to what was needed. And that stage is no different, thankfully. Although it could have been a problem, but you don't know till you get there.
Yeah. And Dave, Atlantic Drive is probably one of those stages in Donegal where the co-driver is probably the busiest, because it is relentless. Because of that, again, were you just in the zone? I'm here to call notes, forget about everything else.
I haven't rallied since 2008, I'd say, or 2007 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that far over the years. But no, here it is. Like Matt said, it is relentless corners. I think I found the started lane more difficult than Atlantic Drive because you're in the top end of fifth gear and the speed is so high in the started lane. But Atlantic Drive is very hard to get a feeling. You're not seeing as much. You don't feel as much through the arse of the seat to know where you are at. So here it's definitely a difficult stage, and I won't deny I struggled with the first time. 1 or 2 places the first time I struggled, but the second time through I was quite happy with the way it came through. But it's just because there's so much happening all the time, you don't feel it through the seat. You're just it's just totally on feeling. Your calling is based on the feeling.
Mm-hmm. And Garry, then from your point of view, you talked about M Sport coming over with engineer, and that every time you go out in this car, it seems to take a step forward. Do you believe it now is in the place that that it's exceeding your expectations at this stage?
Yes, I think without a doubt. I think it's been a while. Matt sat in the car on Wednesday and was very impressed, and with Alistair Fisher out, trying to get him back in the bug again, and he was very impressed. So yeah, when the cars are not only impressing me but impressing these guys, everything seems to be going the right direction. So I think thanks to M Sport, they are definitely giving us a helping hand, and I think the car is definitely capable now of challenging at the top again. So yeah, it's just as you say, maybe the years are there, but I think it's only a matter of time before one of these young fellas hop into one now and do what it's doing in the World Championship and on the ERC. Yeah,
for sure. And like Meirion, the way the rally finished up, you finished, you got second place in the championship. Like, fourth overall, second in the championship. Probably, on Friday morning if somebody had offered that to you, you'd have took it.
Yeah, probably, I just said, on the way home, I think it was just one of those that it was nothing special kind of thing. It was probably not one I'll remember especially in years to come, but that's not because it was a bad weekend. It was just because it was one of those, ended up being like a middle of the road job that turned out not too bad for us, And it's strange, once you aren't in the race, you don't kind of click into that extra gear, and I think that's just what it was, because I just felt probably all weekend my driving wasn't even where it was, the first loop in Killarney, where I thought we were pretty quick considering we were on the medium tyre, in the wet. But just Donegal all weekend, I just felt kind of middle of the road, and I thought, with 3 days without really having a moment, which says a lot, because I think when you're on the edge, you do have the odd twitch here or there. But no, look, it's okay. I mean, Callum has 3 wins in the championship now, which is puts him in a really good position. But with Ulster being points and a half, it gives us some sort of hope anyway. So we'll just have to try and up the speed a bit for the next 2 and see what we can do.
For sure. And Connor, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, and probably going back to what Garry had said earlier about the Friday compared to the Saturday and the Sunday. A few different people we had spoken to about Friday said, oh, this will, sort out the men from the boys, and who knows, Donegal look at the back of their hand and who doesn't. Garry, do you feel it was a bit of a leveler, or, when you look at the top 4, it was Josh, Callum, Sam and yourself at the end of the day? It didn't seem to be much different than, a typical international.
Yeah, but it just felt so different to be going to stages that we hadn't rallied on for 20 years, which is a fact. And I think new terrain, narrow, as Matt says, narrow, bumpy, jumps. The stages had everything. And I think if you go back to the Saturday and Sunday, with no big jumps, with no narrow bumps, and as David says, you could feel every corner through your bum on Friday. Like, we were just absolutely on the limit, bumping out everywhere, but everybody was. And I think we just had a real buzz about Friday stages. And then, I don't say it wrong, but Saturday evening and Sunday, tell me, just kind of got boring. We're back into what we do every year. But look, it's just because I've been doing it for so long. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the stage, but I think it's fantastic of the motor club to bring it down there. And I think the crowds who turned out on Friday, I just happened to speaking to a young fella in the town there before I come up, and he says that they went to Donegal town on Friday and took them 4 hours to get back to Cash. It just showed the crowds that come out on Friday evening for new stages was unreal. Like, and that's great for Irish Rally, and to see all them strangers or different people that's not going to Letterkenny to come out to Donegal town and watch the stages on Friday.
Yeah, like, I'm probably a bit biased, the stages here beside me on the Friday, but like, to see the local people going out, and enjoying the rally, people that wouldn't drive to Letterkenny or whatever, going out and getting the buzz and getting that atmosphere, getting what we love so much about rallying. Like, the local primary school, my wee fellas down the road there, they're all outstanding the car park, cheering every time the car goes past. Like, to me, that's what rallying should be about. It's getting people involved. It doesn't always, we know how good it is. It's nice to see other people getting that kick out of it as well, Garry.
Yes, Cam. Like, I went for a walk on the beach, I think, on Tuesday and Wednesday down in Lahi and Mullinsour Beach. And to be fair, I had to get off it. The amount of people stopped me, they wish me good luck on the rally. And I'm not going to go back for a while yet. It was just a buzz about it. They haven't had a rally there since Rally Ireland in 2009. And I think they were just so excited to get the rally back to that end of Donegal. And I think it's a fantastic spectacle. I think there can probably be more done, as you say, with the primary schools and Donegal town. We've one of the nicest towns in the country, sitting on a doorstep in Donegal town for, like, I don't know, a ceremonial start or an hour's break like we had in Rally Ireland, where we got on the water bus and we chilled out and we met all the people. The Donegal stage, like that Donegal stage at Rally Ireland is history, is one of the best stages ever seen. So yeah, it was great they brought it there, but I definitely hope that they do that again and bring more of the county into the rally.
For sure. And like, Meirion, like, you seen the crowds, like, we mentioned earlier there, Matt says whenever he's in the car, he doesn't see the crowds at the side of the road. Is it something that you're aware of when you're going down the stage?
The odd place, obviously, you see like hundreds of them or 1,000 on the side of the road, but in general, no, you don't kind of take notice of it, But you could tell on Friday, it actually surprised me. I thought, they're moving the rally an hour away from the hub kind of thing in Letterkenny, and you just thought, oh, maybe it'll be a bit quieter. But no, like Garry said, it was absolutely packed on there the whole day. When we left service to drive back to Letterkenny after the last stage, it was like the traffic going the other way still was huge. So yeah, it just shows. I think the rally's kind of that big now that the crowd will follow it about, and it was nice to see, to be honest, because it's a fair way out.
Yeah.
In international rallying these days, an hour's road section, I suppose, is nothing once you get out on the continent and stuff. But in Ireland, it's pretty rare to drag cars that far. But to see the people still sort of travel out and watch was brilliant.
Excellent. And Connor, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, and again, back to Garry. Is there more to come from the Fiesta? Like, certainly, every time we see you out now, and you mentioned yourself, it's improving all the time. But do you think there's more you can get out of it?
Yes, definitely. I think, like, really, when we Donegal in previous years, really, that's my year over, because I'm not really interested in Donegal. What's completely different this year? I'm in the office today and I'm seeing what rallies are coming up, and motor clubs are ringing to see will you come and do rallies, and I'm saying, yeah, why not? This car has so much to give. And I think also from a spectator point of view, people want to see this car now. I'm not biased in any way, because I do, but the car the Fiesta and it sounds completely different. It's like, I was described as like the Hertz car way back in the 90s, with backfires, it's got the proper noise, and people's excited to see it, and I'm excited to drive it. So yeah, it has more to come, and I think I showed at the weekend that M Sport are definitely showing an interest now, and they can give it that extra wee bit. Like, if you see Cahan McCourt and them fellas, putting their sit-downs aside there and on Cavan and bringing out the Fiesta, they definitely, I don't think there's anything wrong with the car now. I just think everything's getting sorted out.
And Meirion, what do you call it? 2 rounds left of the championship. How do you play it from here?
Flat out, probably.
To be honest,
I think honestly we have to be just a bit better prepared for the last one. You know, myself, I put a lot of work in as always for Donegal, but just from a driving seat time perspective, I think we were short, to be honest. You know, it's still always hard to race in Donegal because I think the boys being local, it's like it's always going to mean more to them than it does to me, you know, because I don't live there. But still, it's yeah, going to Cork and Ulster. I guess the two rallies that maybe Cork's the one I've done the most in the championship. So you know, there's no knowledge deficit or anything as such. And then Ulster, we had a pretty good run there last year. So the two rallies, it should be okay for us. It's just we've got to make sure that well, more me than to be honest, and I've got to make sure that I'm up to the job.
And you mentioned seat time, and we're seeing Josh and Callum out in the national championship in Ireland as well as the Irish tarmac. I mean, it doesn't appear you're getting to get out, you know, in the polo other than the actual tarmac championship rounds. So, will you be able to fit in a rally somewhere to get a bit more seat time before Cork or between Cork and Ulster?
That would be ideal. Just to be honest, like I'm in Ypres now, so like I came back from Donegal for a day and straight after Ypres, and it's yeah. So basically, I think in the 2 weeks from Donegal over Ypres, I've been in my own bed one night out of 14. So you know, you kind of appreciate being at home for a bit, but still, you know, it'd be nice to do something before Cork just to get myself wound up properly for it, because you know it's the same gap from Donegal to Cork 20 as what it was from Killarney to Cork 20, to Killarney to Donegal. So it would be nice. We'll just have to see. You know, if time allows and work allows. We had a pretty disastrous month in May through to June with, you know, customers as well. You know, unfortunately they had a few accidents and stuff as well. So it just kind of, we got snowed under a bit and didn't really give us a chance to do anything other than what I have been doing. So ideally, yeah, I'd like to do something, but we'll see what if time allows, kind of thing, you know.
And then I suppose we'll start wrapping up with yourself, Matt. Two questions, I suppose, really. The first one, I spoke to you at the finish, just at, you know, as the cars coming off the last stage, and you were saying, you know, if you couldn't win, it was great to see Callum getting the one because, you know, of what happened last year. Like, he's a very deserving winner. Like, what he has put into Irish Rally in this year, it's good to see him reaping the rewards of it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's had his struggles as well with setup and what have you. So, you know, you can't take it away from him. Okay, things sort of went his way towards the middle of Sunday, but there was pressure all the way through. And even when the pressure from the second place man went, the weather took its place, and you've still got to get it round on, you know, on what probably wasn't an ideal tyre. And you know, we took I think 4 or 5 off him on the second Glen with a downpour on effectively a softer package of tyres, and he, you know, we said, you know, fair play to get that through. Just 4 or 5 down on what we'd achieved was impressive, and obviously had a really good time on the last stage. And you know, I think he's obviously learned from what, you know, his mistake the year before. And I said it was great that, you know, one of us, that we finished 1-2 really, and that, that one of us won after our mishaps last year. So you know, all credit to him. It's you've got to drive it, and you know, however well you know it, you've got to drive it. You've got to make the decisions, and you've got to, you know, withstand the pressure, because there's, you know, especially with him being a local lad and it's local rally, it would have meant the world to him to win that. And you know, I remember when I first won the Cambrian, that was a similar scenario. And driving the last stage to win the rally that you really want to win is probably harder than winning your first international at all. You know, even if you win 100 of them, the one you really want to win is the hardest one to get.
For sure. And then the final one, then, you know, you said last year you had to come back, you had a score to settle. You still didn't win the rally. Is there still an itch to be scratched there for next year? I
would say so, yeah. But a big sense of achievement this year that we've again come and competed, and the fight back and the times that we had Saturday, Sunday, and you know, to put a lot of the demons to rest is great. But I think there's certainly a man in Cash that still really wants that trophy. And, I'm not going to stand in his way. So we're already trying to hatch plans as to how we can, you know, prepare. I mean, I know Mel's really keen to go again, and you know, plan a little bit better. Like Meirion says, get the seat time up beforehand, and you know, the seat time is important. And you know, I've only done 3 rallies in an R5 now since 2021, so it's hard to get back out, but we're keen every time we get in the car. It gets the buzz back, and the reinforcement of the time still being there, even without the seat time, is promising that if we can get a bit more budget and get a bit more time in a car, then those times hopefully come a little bit easier than putting your neck on the line, and you're a bit more fluent in the car and everything clicks a bit better.
What an absolute pleasure. As I say, very genuine, very honest. And hopefully, you never know, we might see Matt Edwards back in Donegal next year. He didn't say no. Connor, as well as them, the two-wheel drive guys and girls as well, Kevin Gallagher, Johnny Jordan, Lauren Kelly, Richard Moffett, and Eddie Doherty. Another fascinating insight, wasn't it?
It was great, and looking forward to listening back to it again. Whenever the podcast is out. It was a fantastic chat, and again, very honest conversations had, and there was kind of everybody's very collaborative and chatty, and there was no real slagging. I suppose maybe because we didn't have Frank Kelly on, but
yeah, Frank's probably going to be a bit disappointed Lauren didn't give everybody a good slag. But speaking of Lauren, we forgot to mention during the podcast, my fault entirely. Lauren won the Ellen Morgan co-driver, leading female co-driver. What a great honour, and no better recipient for the Lauren. Lauren is cut from the same cloth as Ellen. Ellen wanted to be the best co-driver. It didn't matter, female, whatever. It wasn't, it was Ellen always wanted to be the best, and Lauren is cut from that cloth as well. She's doing such a fantastic job there, and with Frank, she could step into any car and be a real asset. So fair play to her and all. But I think we'll hear from the two-wheel drive, and we'll start off by hearing from Kevin and about his thoughts on the Rally 1.
I know, with a great weekend now. To be fair, everything went reasonably straightforward, I suppose. So look, I can't say anything really bad about it. We got on a good pace from the word go, and kind of kept it going for the whole weekend, and with no mechanical issues or overshoots or spins or anything. So just a good clean weekend, and the times kept coming decent for us.
Yeah, because Kevin Eves was on a big push down, on his local stages, but you were keeping, toe-to-toe with him. I think Kevin was probably trying to make a mark on Friday in the hope that he would put you under a bit of pressure.
Well, to be fair now, Kevin lost a good shot of time on, I think it was the third stage maybe. He had a rock and put the wheel back, so I would say only for that he probably would have been leading Friday evening, but I suppose it's just the way everything fell at the one time. I think him and Richard Moffett and Declan Gallagher all had trouble in that one stage, and we kind of jumped from fourth to first all of a sudden, so we did. So.
And Johnny, class 13, I don't know what we can say. Right from the start, you were up there mixing it, and you were always in the top 10 thereabouts overall in the two-wheel drive. Great performance in the wee start.
Yeah, happy that now in fairness. It was nice to get a cut around the local stages in Donegal town as well, but we were happy to get out of the Friday stages. That was kind of the plan, and get up to the more, but we would probably consider a better knowledge of stages, the traditional stages through the gap, but now, to be fair, we were a bit apprehensive with the bumpiness of the Friday stages, but when you look back at them then, that I think they did add to the event, the rallying's not meant to be easy, and it was definitely a good challenge, and I enjoyed them, to be fair,
those Friday stages, all the drivers were saying they hadn't really realised how severe the bumps were until they hit them at full speed. You had a couple of hairy moments over the jumps as well too, hadn't you?
Yeah. When you're wrecking them at 40 or 50 miles an hour, it's a bit different than you hit them at 100 maybe, but I wouldn't have been that much of a fan of the Ballyshannon stage. The other two stages, I thought they flowed a lot better, that they would have been jumpier and higher speed, but I thought they flowed a lot better, but they're really challenging, and I enjoyed them, to be fair.
And David, from your point of view, you're still you're still building up your knowledge of Donegal. The new stages mixed with the old stages, a bit there for everybody.
Yeah, we really enjoyed Friday, I have to say. Unfortunately, we dropped the time on stage 2, so we didn't really appear in any of the results, but apart from the stage we dropped all the time on, we were reasonably competitive. But I really enjoyed it. It was totally different to sort of Donegal. We'd come from Cavan, and if anything, they were a bit easier than Cavan. But they were a totally different challenge to, as Johnny says, Saturday and Sunday that everyone sort of knows, and they're smooth and fast. Friday was narrow and bumpy, but it was very, very enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. And how you find the move from the two, the Escort to the Starlet? Yes, you were 2.5 before, but is there a huge difference in the car?
Very hard to say. It's definitely what I'm used to. I found the car very hard to get used to. You seem to have to drive it quite differently, and it was definitely bigger, and I don't know, felt very different to drive. And I mean, straight away when we got back into the other car, it felt comfortable. So obviously we never would have moved if we didn't have to go to class 14. And that only happened since we moved. So when the chance came up to go move back, we did. We jumped at it and moved straight back. So certainly enjoying being back in the startup.
Yeah, it's probably like putting on an old pair of gloves now. You just feel comfortable. That's where you're done all your rallying up until 2 years ago, really.
Yeah, well, I'm nearly 15 years driving a startup. It's hard to believe. Yeah, we 1600 and then class 13 and obviously into class 14 now. So I suppose it's just what you're used to. Obviously the car has developed a bit. But I mean, the chassis by and large is the same. So it definitely felt very natural getting back in.
For sure. And Eddie, we spoke a couple of weeks before Donegal after your fantastic result down in Laois. Your plan was to go learn the stages, find your way about, not do anything too silly, but you have to be even happier than what you ever dreamt of coming out of Donegal.
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, we never expected to be in just kind of top 5 in Donegal. I suppose the Friday kind of gave a level playing field, and we thought our pace was fairly okay there. We had clutch problems and prop shaft problems then early on Saturday morning, and that kind of dropped us back a bit, and we're kind of in no man's land. So we kind of stayed where we are, went to the finish and got there in the finish. And look, it's a finisher's rally as well at the same time. So no, we thoroughly enjoyed the whole experience of it.
Yeah, and Lauren, your dad always talks about he struggles on the Friday. This year, like on the Friday morning, or the first look on the Friday, things were looking really good. Like Frank was wakened and ready for action, and then unfortunately with a puncture, wasn't it, in the second look that seemed to just drop you off the sort of the timesheets?
Yeah, absolutely. I had him well warned he needed to be hot off the blocks this Friday. None of this Miss Daisy driving just to get through Friday. No, we were very surprised about the Friday stages. We thought they were going to be very tight and technical stages, which parts of them were, but we thoroughly enjoyed them. There was a lot of good bumpy bits and fast flowing stuff that we really enjoy. We were going really well. I think we were maybe 6th or 7th in the two-wheel drive after the first lock of stages, and then unfortunately, just a few corners into stage 5, we clipped a rock that wasn't there the first time and took a tire off the rim. We had to stop and change it, so we lost about 2 to 3 minutes, and that was our Good Friday work undone, and we played catch up the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, but even with that, like the times you were setting over the weekend has to give you great confidence going forward then.
Absolutely. As I say, usually we're always playing catch up after Friday. Well, we were this time as well, but for a completely different reason. But very reassuring that the times were thereabouts. Obviously, the likes of Knockalla, Fanad, Atlantic Drive, Dad's familiar with because he's been doing them year after year. He'd need to be familiar with them by now. No, it's the best weekends rallying I've had in a long, long time. Just I think maybe the fact that we had the puncture and then we didn't really have anything to fight for after that just added to the enjoyment of it. And I don't know, I had some laugh at trying to choose tires, and everybody trying to choose what tires to put on Saturday, especially. It was just good crack.
Yeah, for sure. And my abiding memory of Knockalla, the first run, was the 2 years coming up the hill and coming out of the first hairpin climbing up the hill, and everybody out hanging out over the barriers, hanging down. And do you get that sensation in the car? It was like something you'd have seen in Rally Legend, nearly.
See when Knockalla, especially when you're at the bottom and you can see the crowd up on the hill while you're waiting to go, and you watch the first lock of cars up. It's some buzz. I just wish maybe there wasn't such a delay at the start of the stage, because it was dry whenever we got there, and then it bucketed just as we come up to the start line. So it made things interesting. But now it's the crowd in Knockalla is always fantastic, and few people were waving at me, so I thought it would be rude to not wave back.
And Johnny, we talked on Sunday evening, and you were saying because of the way the nature of the rally, the changeable conditions, it just made it tricky. There was no respite in it at all. The whole time you were just having to be full concentration, and just be aware the whole time that it was so easy to make a mistake.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely added to it now, in fairness. Tire choice, as Lauren says, it was it's really tricky. Saturday wasn't so bad because it kind of stayed consistent the whole way through the day, but Sunday come in with the thunderstorms. You're kind of starting out on the harder compound tires, and next thing it just dumped rain, and just aquaplaning everywhere. Yeah, like it was tricky, like, in fairness, but look, you're not so bad when you get out the other end. At least you can tell the tale, you know. But it's orchard when man get caught out, you know, like. But you know, we lost a couple of lads in the class on the Sunday, like, you know. But look, that's just the way. That's the joy of it, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, like you've been on the bad end of that as well, many a times.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Swings and roundabouts. Yeah.
For sure. And David, like, you know, a class 14 car, you know, on the wrong tires, like, you know, if you're on a hard tire and it's starting to rain, it must be kind of seat your pants stuff, is it?
Yeah, very, very difficult. As Johnny says, Saturday it was damp all day pretty much, so we were on a sort of extra soft all day. And in fairness, it worked really well. We were very surprised with the grip we had. But into Sunday, it was bone dry, and all the word coming from out that direction was it was dry, and we went on like a medium hard dry setup. And then when the rain comes in, it's definitely tricky. But you sort of just have to get used to it. And luckily, we were sort of in a wee bit of no man's land on Sunday, so we didn't have to go mad chasing anything. So we just sort of drove around it. But I mean, both Glen and Atlantic Drive, we had half of the stage bone dry and half of the stage soaking. You know, there was no right tire for it. It was tricky, but thankfully, like I say, we weren't having to take big chances.
For sure. And like Kevin, you know, we were sitting on Atlantic Drive watching the cars go past, and then next thing Killian, it was Andy, was on at the end of Fanad, and he was talking about torrential rain, and we were sitting in the sun, short sleeves. Like, that must make it impossible. Like, you know, as David said, there was no right tire for the Sunday stages.
No, that's sort of the way it was. Well, we actually went on a soft on the Sunday as well, and like I came off Glen and Atlantic Drive. We got both of them dry in the morning, and like I was in completely the wrong tire. But then when we went into Fanad, it sort of worked to our favour again. So like, there was no right tire. No matter what you done, you were going to be wrong somewhere. Like.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I suppose the second loop was sort of worse again. It was you were getting a couple of mile of a stage wet and a couple of mile of it dry, and then it would get wet again. Like it was just you were just driving with your eyes really, like to see what you had ahead of you.
I suppose like every corner the grip level is different. Then like it's not even you know, you can't even say that stage is, you know, such a way, or you know, half of the stage. Like every corner is going to be different.
Definitely, because those stages are all sort of coastal as well, and if the breeze is getting at them, they will dry quick, and then the parts under the trees are going to stay wet regardless. Like so, no, it is very tricky now. Like, but just there were a lot of as Johnny was saying, there were a lot of people disappeared on the Sunday. Like you know, and that's mainly the reason why. Like there were a lot of people off the road.
Mm-hmm. And Eddie, like, you know, from your point of view, like you're new to Donegal. Like it was hard enough learning the stages, but trying to learn, you know, to work through those weather conditions must have been kind of testing as well.
Yeah, the second last stage of Atlantic Drive was probably the worst I've ever drove in my life. Literally, we're at the start, same as everyone else, I'd say, on medium and hards, and literally just bucketed with thunderstorms. And you get the first 2K fairly dry, and then next thing is just a sheet of ice there, like at some stations. But no, look, I really enjoyed it. Then you go back on the Fanad then, and you hear the thunderstorms in the background, and you're aware, will I change onto wets? So we changed onto wets, and then we should have stayed on the dry tire. It was just no man like could win on it. So, look, I think by Sunday, a lot of people in the modified just wanted to get to the finish of that stage. Kevin, I'd say, had a fairly good lead. That David was kind of in no man's land, and we were in no man's land as well. So, that was our main objective, say then.
For sure. Connor, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I suppose I was looking at Knockalla in the first run, and maybe more Kevin directing this to you. You know, I can only imagine the Darian's a bit of a handful in the wet, and you had that delay before Knockalla, cold tires, cold brakes, etc., and then it lashed before you got onto it. Like, but you cracking time. Well, you were 11th quickest. Or like, was that how much? I suppose was familiarity with the stage, or was it, you know, paying extra attention to the notes, or you know, how did it come together for you on that one?
I suppose we probably had a decent run on it the first time. The second time, I think we're maybe a wee bit more cautious. But no, look, I suppose we know the stage as well as anybody's going to know it. And like the car does actually work very well in the wet. Like it's just the traction so good in the rear because all the weight's in the back of the car. So like I do like nearly see the rain coming for the Darien because you do get a bit of an advantage over the other cars, like but I suppose you can slip off the road easier as well if you come on a slippy patch. But no, we had a good run on it. We were watching ourselves too, like, we weren't just going completely mental.
And
look, you
I suppose
just have to do it same as you do any other rally, and just do your notes and spend a bit of extra time on them maybe than you would on the Saturday and Sunday stages that you've done before. But no, they were pretty nice stages. Like, apart from first one, I didn't particularly like it. It was just the car's too wide for it, and you're just catching gravel all the time. But you just had to work through it. And the other two stages are actually quite nice stages, all but being a bit jumpy and sore on the car.
And Eddie, over to you. Just I suppose, how did you find Donegal and that lack of familiarity and coming to, I suppose, up against other crews there who would be more familiar with the stages?
Yeah, look, we knew we were going to be on the back foot, so Recce was kind of our most important days of the whole week, if you ask me. And look, we found it tough. There's no point saying I'm no different. I suppose if I'd probably know Killarney a lot better than most other people as well. So, look, each person has their own area of the country that they go well in. So, look, I think the notes was the main thing for us. We have a set of notes there now that we can push on for next year as well. So, it's nice to have one on the back plate and to finish it then as well.
Yeah. And Lauren, how does Donegal compare? Like, you're competing now internationally, and you're out and traveling the world, yourself and Frank. And so, when you come home and you do the likes of Donegal, is there anything that it's like, or is it just completely unique?
Everybody knows there's no place like Ireland and no place like Donegal, especially the such good weather we had earlier in the week. Wrecking, being up at Knockalla and Atlantic Drive, it was just absolutely beautiful. The blue water and the bright skies and everything. I almost didn't believe we were in Ireland. Of course, we got a reality check then on Saturday and Sunday when it absolutely bucketed. But the special thing I think we have is tarmac rallying in general. The likes of England or a lot of places abroad, they don't have closed road rallying like we do, or a lot of it's gravel, so I think that's what makes it very, very special. Kevin, I'm sure you probably met them, the French lads that had come over for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
They were just blown away by Donegal and the atmosphere of it, and even the ceremonial start was fantastic on Thursday evening. The amount of people that was at that, and just I suppose all the different cars that come to Letterkenny, how busy the town be at the weekend, the pace of tarmac rallying, the amount of modified escorts that we have, because that's not a thing that's very popular abroad either. We're a very unusual thing that we're allowed like Millingtons and 2.5 engines in Mark IIs. Like a lot of rallies when we go abroad, they have to put us in like a 00 category or just a show category. We're not allowed to compete because they don't know what to do with it. So that's something that's very unique to our country. So Donegal just is the pinnacle of that in Ireland. Like 3 days of top level rallying. What more could you ask for on some of the most fantastic stages in the world?
Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah, and David, from your point of view, then your brother went out quite early on. Like, does that make it more difficult for or do you just drive your own rally anyway, or is there kind of like a team thing going on? Do you just discuss tyres and all that kind of thing, and all of a sudden then you haven't somebody to bounce ideas off, or where does that leave you?
No, well, in terms of tyres, it meant I had all the choice I wanted. Instead of having to buy 40, we only bought 20 or whatever it was.
And it didn't matter what choice you had, they were always wrong.
But we had a good selection of tyres gathered up before the event, because that's the best way to do it if you can. But basically it meant I had the pick of them, which was great. In terms of, look, obviously we both like to be racing. He changed the engine actually before Calvin this year, and he hasn't had much luck with it yet. He said I think he's done 4 stages and had 2 fastest stage times, and that's all he's done in 2 rallies, 4 days of rallying. But no, when he went out and did mud notes for us on Saturday morning, which was great. And because we had recce'd in the dry, so he was able to go around, and there's a few places now. There's a left on Knockalla there, just at the school, down the wee narrow part down the back, and he had marked, that it was very shiny, and like we came out of the grass and only 4 outside, we in the field. But there was a few places like that, so he did that, which was a big help to us. But other than that, no, it doesn't really matter. The boys are a bit less busy in service, which is no harm too.
Mm-hmm. And then Johnny, and then for you, like class 13, last year, suppose maybe coming out of COVID and that, you didn't get out as much. And I know talking to you last year, you're a bit disappointed where you're at pace-wise, but you seem to have clicked back in again this year. Have you done anything different to the car, or is it just time behind the wheel, or what do you put the difference in performance down to?
Well, I haven't done much this year. We done calving. You know, we moved the car up on the 15-inch wheels over the winter. So we didn't. We got our all rewired and whatnot, and we didn't get much testing for calving. We actually got no testing at all. So calving was the test for Donegal, but the setup wasn't right in calving. You know, but we got through it, and I look at you got the seat, the mileage up. Got a good test then with Gallagher around over there, Part 2 Motorsport. He made an unreal job of the car, to be fair, setup wise, and she's a different car. Like she does everything you want her to do. She does nothing unexpectedly, and it just feels good, just feels naturally, and you know, just kind of back to what kind of way you remember her a lot of years ago. But it's all down to seat time. Like, you know, you need to get out, but it's just not easy getting out. It's hard to get time just when you.
Yeah. I just think, you know, because there's less rallies, and then you know, like there's so many people putting entries in, like the reserve lists and one thing another then as well too. It's like, rallying's in a great place, but it's difficult to get out and get the seat time as well, isn't
it? Yeah, you'll not be rocking up in many rallies now anymore. Like, you know, the late entry, the reservists are there nearly now in them all, you know. But yeah, look, you just have to be planning ahead, just and pick them out, just and go from there, you know. Yeah.
And like, you know, on this, you know, from sort of like Saturday afternoon into Sunday, you're up there mixing it, you know, with the class 14 guys. You're having a great old battle with John Bonner and the McGettigans and all that there. You know, it must do you real good to be mixing it with them guys as well, and they are lovely lads as well.
Oh, good crack! The two McGettigans and John and Paddy McHugh. We great crack the whole weekend. They were running all and around each other the whole weekend there enough, you know. But we had a good enough lead in the Sunday morning in the class, and we had a good enough cut at Glen Village. But then Atlantic Drive was dry. But then see when the rain come in, it was just time to pull the horns in. You know, you had to start thinking cute. There's no point throwing away trying to race the class 14 boys, throwing away class lead. You know, so you had to be cute, like.
For sure. And Kevin, like from your point of view, like last year you got through the rally and clutch problems on the Sunday, but other than that, like this year it all went pretty, plain sailing. Have you done anything really different to the car over the winter, or is it just kind of, wee small changes making the difference?
There are a few small changes, like the setup of the car is probably a wee bit better, but that's just more rallies done and you're kind of always tweaking. No, other than that, it's pretty much the same, but it's probably just better prepared and kind of knew a wee bit better what we had to do and sort of how much time you could get. Like, the Darren's always going to be a bit quicker than, an Escort or a Starlet, like where you want it to be, like, because they're a different car, really. Like, they probably handle better and they're a wee bit lighter, and the traction's a wee bit better. Like, so, and then I suppose, look, the suffer in other ways too, maybe, because they've been a wee bit wider than that. But I knew just certain stages would suit the car. So we kind of knew what we had to do, and if we bided our time out of Friday, we could push on after that.
I think so. Then you must have been very happy coming out of Friday to be in the lead at that point. Like, Friday was almost a kind of get through it and do nothing silly kind of day almost. Then was it?
Well, if we kind of said to ourselves, if we came out sort of within 20 seconds or 30 seconds, we would have been more than happy. It was just sort of a wee bit of an unknown with the stages, the type of them, how narrow and gravelly and bumpy they were. You don't know sometimes if you're going to be up time or down time till you get to the end of those type of stages.
Yeah, and like Lauren, the unknown in rallying is that that's what it really is, isn't it? That must be some buzz coming off a stage and knowing that you and Frank has had a great stage, and then like Kelly and Randy or something saying you're 5 up or you're 0.2 down or something. Like, there must be no feeling like that.
That's fantastic, although most of the time it usually goes the other way. You felt like you've had a great stage and then you get let down at the end of it. But that's always a fantastic feeling. And like, geez, I got some entertainment value of the last stage on Friday after we had the puncture. The tyre we were running, the spare one we had in the boot, was a lower profile than the one on the other side. So she was a bit of a handful through that stage, and then got to the end of the stage, and I can't mind the fella's name, but some way it broke down, and we asked could we have his spare wheel to balance the whole thing out. So we had 2 soft tyres for a completely dry final stage, and we just had a complete whale of a time. There's so many times in Inker I'm laughing my head off. And the time actually wasn't far away for completely melting 2 soft tyres, but geez, I had some crack.
And that is the great thing, you know, like you and your dad, like, yes, you just want to do well, and you just want to, you know, high up as possible, but the crack's what it's all about as well.
That's it. Again, maybe the puncture was a blessing, because then, as I say, it wasn't as serious with trying to fight for anything anymore. We just had a complete ball. As I say, it's Donegal, that's the best weekend's crack rallying I've had in a long, long time.
Because he talked before about, you know, that was one of the things he wants to tick off, you know, get you through Fanad, you know, and a real good run around Fanad in the dry, and you've got that Sunday morning.
Yeah,
No, Sunday
Sunday afternoon. It was halfway dry the first go, and then it started to bucket. Whenever you come around a corner and you see spectators just starting to put on coats and put up umbrellas, it's like, oh no. But then amazingly we got it completely dry the second time round. I can understand why it's Dad's favourite stage, because it is some roller coaster of a stage.
And Eddie, like, you know, you've done the stages now, you've seen the classics, you know. Are they as good, or, you know, did you come away feeling this was something special?
Yeah, no, it was definitely something special. The crowds of people, I've never seen anything like it. Driving out to the first stage on Friday morning, I think there was one junction, and there must have been cars for 100 meters, 200 meters down either side of the junction. It was mental. I've never witnessed anything like it. Even we've done a rally in Belgium and stuff like that, where like the crowds are always good, but no, I've never experienced anything like it before. So no, looking forward to going back again.
Sure. And Johnny, you know, like, you're the same as me. You live here down south of the Gap. You know, how good was that Friday? Like, the crowds, I don't think there's been crowds like that in Donegal for years. And like, for you going down stages, it's, you know, close by home, pretty special.
Oh, special, surely. Yeah. You know, even the well wishes around home, you know, you're seeing people out and about through the service here, you know. And to be fair, I think Donegal town embraced the rally very well, and everybody talked to, you know, was all buzzed about it. You know, there's a great buzz about the town forward too, you know. But it's good to see, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, because even in the, you know, the week leading up to the rally, there was a great outbuzz about the town. You know, people were talking about it. You know, it was great that they didn't have to be travelling up to Fanad or wherever the rally was coming to them.
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody asking where's the best place to watch. You know, what are you thinking? You know. Yeah, no, it's really good now. But it'll be nice to see it return again, you know, to be fair. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next year or the year after, whatever, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And like, David, you know, like, new stages, classic stages, Donegal, you know, there is something special about it.
For sure, there's something special, yeah. I've been going. We first did the juniors in probably 2010 or 2011. And so we go sort of whenever we can. I haven't done it every year now, but no, it's still amazing. I love it up there. I do think the mix of stages is good, not to have all the classics. I think you have to have a mixture, but I think having Friday different was great for everybody, and a real new challenge for everybody as well.
Mm-hmm. And Conor, you want to jump back in again there?
Yeah, and again, I was just going to ask David, you know, after a year and a bit of the Mark II and then back to the Starlet again, do you feel kind of comfortable and at home in the Starlet? Are you sticking with it, or might you change?
Yeah, after all the torture, we're definitely sticking with it. Because we bought the Escort and changed the engine in it, and then we bought the Starlet back, and we had to take the engine out of the Escort and go back in the Starlet, and we had to sell the engine out of the Starlet, and a lot of messing, so we'll definitely be sticking with it now. But no, we got the engine fitted just before Kerry, and we went down the road to it, and no, straight away I have to say I'm like the speed. I don't know if it improved a lot, but it certainly was as good as it was in the Escort immediately, and it has probably improved a bit since that. So no, we're really enjoying being back in it for sure.
And Johnny, you know, with that, the Starlets, like, what is it about the Starlets? When you see them on the stage, they still look fantastic. Great little car to watch and extremely competitive, you know, and like, they're fairly long in the tooth now, but they're still there. They're still with it. What is it? What's the magic about them, or the secret about them?
I suppose there's probably a bit more novelty about them compared to an Escort. An Escort are a lot more common, I suppose, where Starlet's not. Like, you know, you only get a handful of Starlets in any rally, but you know, beneath it all, then they are more or less an Escort. They're all running all the same stuff as an Escort, you know. So you can have the best of both worlds. You have something a wee more unique, but at the same time, a car is every bit as competitive. But that's so hard got for them. That's the only downfall of them.
And about 2 foot shorter.
Yeah, don't be handy no time.
Maybe a bit less quarter pounds damaged.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Lauren, that's the thing. The Mark II is iconic in Irish rally, and I think, you know, somebody said that there was over 60 Mark IIs in Donegal. Like, why, or what makes them still so popular to this day?
That is the question we all want the answer to. It's like Dad, I think, was taking the hand out of you, Eddie, about like why you young lads all in Mark IIs, like go frig off to R2s or something like that. I don't know. I think it's a thing here, especially probably that you can buy shells ready to build. There's what do you call the company over in England? Is it MST that'll build a Mark II or a Mark 1 to your spec? You just order it and they'll build it. Parts are just handy got, and I suppose you can have a bare basic Mark II, a 1600 Mark II, and then you can go right the way up till what we have in class 14. So you can start from the bottom or go to the top or build it up as you go along. I suppose just one of them easy cars that you can do that with, and spectators love them. They're fun to sit in. They're fun to drive. What's not to love about them?
For sure. And like Kevin, then like you've won now 2 times now in the 2-wheel drive. Like, do you still get the same buzz out of the Darien every time you sit in there?
Oh yeah, look, I love the Darien. To be fair, like I would drive loads of Escorts and Starlets and different cars that you'd be working on, and I would still have no inclination to get out of the Darien at all. Like just a different sensation in them. You're sitting low, and they're good acceleration, brilliant brakes in them. Like so, no, I'll stick with what I have for now.
Yeah. Kevin, 2 wins now. Back next year for number 3. But have you any plans now in the meantime?
I might try and do maybe a couple more of the national rounds. We've done 1 or 2 of them already, and with good enough finishes. So I'll see. Look, we'll just pick and choose. Look, I'll make no permanent plans or definite plans. So we just need to get back, try and get a bit of work done for a month or 2 anyway, and see then we'll do a few
I have
more.
an engine for you.
So, like David, now you have the 2.5. You've got a good result in Donegal. Like, where do you see yourself going now?
My wife's expecting now in 2 weeks. So I'm not going too far for a while.
Changing nappies.
Yeah. I really don't know. No real plans. Maybe try and go to Wexford or something later in the year. But certainly be nothing in July or August, unfortunately. So, and like I say, the engine's due rebuild. It was due rebuild really on Friday evening of Donegal, but thankfully it made it through it. So we'll get it built now.
And Lauren, like yourself and Frank, where to next?
Ravens Rock is our next rally, and then I think the next one after that's in McKinley.
And Johnny, yourself then? No.
Sligo. Sligo's the only one on the radar at the minute now. I'll probably not do much more after that. I'll say maybe unless the Motor Club runs the one for the harvest weekend.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about. If it goes ahead, I'll probably do it now. But other than that, I don't think I have much other plans. But I take it as it comes.
Yeah, and Eddie, we'll finish up with yourself then. Leading the Tarn Championship, like probably, we talked earlier, this was beyond your dreams at the start of the year. Like, you're in a good position there. Do you see yourself doing that now before Cork, or is Cork sort of the main focus of your attention now?
No, we've the local Ravens Rock. That's only 5 minutes away from me there this weekend coming. So if that, we'll probably do in McKinley then as well, and then Cork 20. That's the plan at the moment. But no, looking forward to the local one now. This weekend coming has been around in, let's say, 3 years now. So looking forward to it.
Very good, very good. And like, you have to be, going into Cork, leading the championship. Is it a solid result or is it a big attack?
No, it's attack from now on. I think I'm sick of driving around looking for points at this stage. To be honest with you, no, I think if we finish 3rd or above, we don't have to go to Ulster and we have it then. So, I think I couldn't see Garry going, but I'm sure Jason's going, and I'm sure he's going to Ulster as well. So, no, for us definitely, I'm sick of driving around looking for points. So it's definitely go for attack now at this stage.
And Kevin, well, the very last question to yourself, like that 2 wins in Donegal. Like, what could you see you going to somewhere like Killarney or maybe going, Cork 20, just to see how you get on there?
Look, I wouldn't mind going to like those rallies, but it's just getting the time to go for me is the big one. Like, to do any of those internationals, look, you're looking at the best part of 5 or 6 days away, like, and it's just hard to commit to that time. Whereas the national rallies are a bit easier. You can most of the time head off on a Saturday morning, go and do your recce, and you can be back at work Monday morning again. Like,
yeah, look, that was a great conversation we had with the guys and the girls, and the modified side, and thankfully, it's also good to hear that it doesn't look like the competition's over for the year. That there'll be a few more battles to be had on the stages yet.
That's for sure.
And,
that's for sure. Yep.
Yeah, and then what do you call it? We also had the chance to catch up with Jay Coleman. So Jay had a fairly tough weekend in Ypres and had a fantastic junior BRC win, which is just, I don't think anybody expected that one. You know, very limited mileage under his belt, so a fantastic event.
Yeah, that Ypres definitely seemed to be a real hard challenge this year. It's never easy any year, but this year in particular, some big accidents, some big casualties there. Great to see, for the British Championship, Adrian Formeau won the rally in the Fiesta. So definitely, even, listening to Garry earlier, there is definitely a resurgence in the Fiesta. Great to see.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, it's coming together for M Sport. Are putting an awful lot of work into that car, and certainly the results are starting to be obvious in that. And also, we're going to get to see that car in the hands of Formeau on the Ulster as well. It's just been announced that he'll be taking part, which is brilliant.
Yeah, that has to be welcome. And we've seen what Matt Edwards, one good run, taking the Citroen, then the Polo, and then the Citroen. The guys here started to swap over. A good run by Formeau and the Ulster. We could see a few more Fiestas starting to appear here again.
Absolutely, we could. And again, as Garry continues to develop further in that car as well, the results are coming, and certainly the car's looking good. And I suppose M Sport need a bounce somewhere.
That's for sure. That is for sure. And then our own guys then, Kyle White and Kyle McBride both had real bad luck, but they still bounced back and come in, second and third, points. But I think J won in the BRC. It's really blew the whole championship wide open there for them.
Yeah, it has. It's opened things up, and it's great. And it's great to see dominance from crews from this side of the water as well, taking part and doing extremely well. So look, as you say, without further ado, let's hear from Jay. So Jay, an eventful Ypres. First time there, first time with Lorcan sitting with you in the car. And maybe a bit of a challenging start, even before the event. Do you want to talk us through?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on, Connor. We went just back from Ypres. Obviously, a brilliant weekend, huge experience, and enjoyable. Amazing roads and rally out there in general. It's just it was fantastic. But it didn't start off the best for us. We were testing over there on Tuesday, and maybe a couple of runs into the test, we came across a tractor actually on the road on a fully proper organized test, and just kind of a freak, I think. Tractor and coming against us in the road. So of course that was a bit of a scare. We had to kind of drive into the ditch to avoid it. So it wasn't the best start to the week. Obviously, we done a small bit of damage, not major. So we were still able to do the rally, but of course, Tom Gahan and all his lads, big thanks to them because they got the car back as if it was brand new again, got us out. So it wasn't the best of starts, but as the weekend went on, obviously everything gelled, and myself and Lorcan got on really well. So wasn't the best start, but it turned out fairly good in the end.
And how would you describe the Ypres stages? They seem quite unique and quite different, or maybe a different style to the tarmac events you would do here in Ireland.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, everyone talks about the cuts in Ypres, and how it's quite hard to get your head around that. You just have to be in cuts everywhere, and of course pollution on the road. But I even found on the tarmac there, the tarmac is so inconsistent. It looks the same everywhere, but in some places there's very little grip, and in some places there is grip. And I mean, that's kind of only something you learn from rallying on the stages. I mean, in the recce, it wasn't even something that came across my mind, that kind of way. But no, definitely it's something that even I'd know to look out for in the future, and even after the rally, where the guys ahead of you are going to be, using the cuts or off the road or on the road. I mean, look, it takes a lot of learning, and it's totally different to Ireland, and probably a lot of other places as well, I'd say. But brilliant rally, amazing stages, fast, and really enjoyable. Yeah.
Was there much of a challenge, making the pace notes for this event, particularly with the cuts? Did you know where you should be cutting or how much of a cut?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, like, and even obviously it was my first time with Larkin, and Larkin had done a bit of rallying out there, which really, really helped. Like, he was kind of able to say, like, we were kind of in the recce, and I was saying, like, Jesus, what do you think there, Larkin? And he was able to tell me, which is a great, brilliant help, like, when everything is new. But we kind of had a chat before the rally, and we were kind of went through what I'd use on my pace notes here at home, and kind of differentiating between maybe a small cut or a big cut, or nearly 4 wheels off the road, a road cut, like. So we had a good chat about that before the rally, and I think 90% of places the notes were probably fairly spot on, which is, I was kind of surprised. I thought that after the shakedown, especially, I mean, it was after the road was after being, driven on maybe by 100 cars before we actually got to do it, because there was a qualifying before the shakedown, and the road was really badly polluted. And then my confidence was kind of knocked a bit after it. I was saying, this is going to be, is this the whole rally going to be this bad? But no, as the weekend went on, it was fairly good, yeah.
Yeah, and when you got high temperatures as well out there in Belgium at the weekend, like, how much did that kind of make it difficult with regard to brakes, tires, etc.?
Yeah, even on us, in the car, like, it was mega hot, like. But yeah, we found Saturday on one or two of the stages we were boiling the brakes, which was kind of something we had to look out for. There was a 22-kilometer stage where about, I think, maybe 12, 15 kilometers in, we just lost all brakes. So we kind of really just had to just drive to the end of the stage, take no risks, because we were leading the class at that point, and there was no point in even taking any mad risks. But yeah, tire wise is really unusual out there. The tarmac doesn't wear tires. It's really unusual. It's like at home, you'd be burning tires off a car in that heat. But no, tires wouldn't even be marked after stages. Yeah.
And you mentioned there about having to keep the head, and how difficult was that to kind of keep your pace measured, to obviously keep the lead, and the plan being then to obviously to win the junior, but with the fact that the new stages to you, and as you said earlier, you have to commit to the cuts. There's no kind of halfway. No. So how did you balance that, I suppose, is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, I suppose I probably I really did struggle on the Saturday over there. I mean, I was quite disappointed with my times, and then we were kind of saying, well, there's no point in going mad, because if you go off the road, it's another off after a couple of bad events at home. So we kind of had to, yeah, it was kind of steady, but yeah, it's quite hard to just drive when you have that much of a lead where you don't have to go off. Whereas I would have liked to kind of take a couple of chances and push on a bit, maybe on the Saturday, and put some good times against the kind of more local guys that were at the front of the whole Rally 4 class, rather than just the JBRC. But no, it was difficult, but at the end of the day, we got around, and that was the aim of that event, to finish, get all the mileage, and then I think even to finish that event in itself is quite an achievement.
Absolutely, to go there first time, and it is a tricky event, and we've seen, experience, like Leverve was caught out, and there's somebody who knows Ypres like the back of his hand.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And even we were talking, and even looking back on when Craig was doing the rally, that Ray was saying that it took him maybe 3-4 attempts in Belgium before he could master the roads out there. So I mean, that just kind of says it all, which kind of put me kind of bit happier about maybe some disappointing times during the weekend.
Yeah, it puts a bit of perspective on
it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just the way it is, that kind of way. So
yeah. And what do you got? Congratulations, fantastic win. Where does this leave you now in the BRC in the junior championship?
Yeah, well, I think we're still third in the championship, because we missed, of course, the Jim Clark. So but of course, drop rounds and stuff like that, I'm not too worried about that. But no, I don't know, it leaves us in a pretty good place. I mean, to push on, Ulster, of course, is the next round, so that's part of the Irish Tarmac Championship anyway, so we'll definitely be going there. And I suppose see after that. Obviously, there's a couple of lovely gravel rallies there towards the end of the championship, which I'd love to do as well. Great experience when you get to recce in the forestry as well in the UK. It's really good. So yeah, no, we'll definitely keep going as we are now and see what happens.
And you're one of 3 nominees for the Carlos Standout Performance Award on the BRC website. So people have an opportunity to vote for you.
Yeah, of course. Anyone there watching, we'd be brilliant if we could get a couple of votes in, and it'd mean a lot for us for the next round, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, if that's on the BRC, the British Rally Championship website, and you're one of 3 nominees. So fingers crossed now you get that. And what's the prize for that?
It's 40 litres of fuel free of charge for the next event. So in Ulster, 40 litres free of fuel, which is obviously everything makes a big difference, you know.
Yeah.
So,
brilliant. And what do you call it? Is any other outside of BRC any other plans this year, or too early?
Yeah, of course we'll have the Ravens Rock this weekend, which is our local event. So I'm really looking forward to that. But kind of outside Ireland and the UK, yeah, we kind of plan on doing a good bit in Europe. Maybe kind of towards the end of the year when obviously championships and stuff kind of calm and settle, and you can kind of say, look, okay, we'll do this or do that and forget about this maybe. So nothing major planned yet. We're looking at a couple of rallies though, all right. In Italy and Europe and maybe north of here as well. So yeah, really looking forward to doing some stuff like that, because, you know, obviously I love rallying at home, but I mean, you really do need to get the experience outside of Ireland too and the UK. So yeah, I really look forward to doing a bit of stuff like that, you know.
That's it. Every opportunity to benchmark yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, sometimes it's quite disheartening maybe if you go somewhere that's really specialized and like you're kind of looking at the times and you're saying like, you know, how is this possible? But then like that's kind of just something you have to do while you're gaining experience, and then when you have the experience, you know, you can maybe go for it out there, you know.
Yeah, huge thanks to KCJ, and like that was a very difficult Ypres rally, and fantastic results winning the junior BRC. And also speaking of other fantastic results at the weekend, we had the Moonraker and Ron Caldwell and Arthur Cairns had a win there as well, which was great to see.
Yeah, and you know, a great results for the MA Rally Academy once again. And speaking of the MA Rally Academy, as we're recording or we're editing the show this week, the news broke. 2 more of the guys heading out to Sweden. The Royal Rally, I think it's called. Delighted now to be joined with Patrick O'Brien and Wal Creighton. Patrick, you're taking the Skoda out to Sweden?
Yeah, we're bringing the Skoda out to Sweden, and can't wait. Looks like a really good rally. It's quite fast, and the roads are quite smooth as well. So, yeah, and Colin's jump as well, the crest is going to be, it'll be cool to get over that. So, yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, and and no snow. It's going to be gravel all the way.
Exactly, yeah. It's going to be completely different. Like, it's pretty new to everybody, and even the videos before the event is all pretty much in the snow. So, yeah, it'll be completely different.
And well, from your point of view, you're getting a run in the Orange Tangerine. Like, fantastic opportunity you've been given by M Sport Poland for this event.
Yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity. You know, and thank you to the academy especially, you know, for putting me in that position. With, you know, Estonia only around the corner after. So yeah, it's a good opportunity. As Paddy said, the stages are high, you know, high speed, and it'll be cool to get over some of those iconic stages, you know, that are used in the WRC. They're not used now, but in previous years. So yeah, there's not a lot of onboards that we can do a lot of work on because they're all in the snow, obviously, which is a bit weird now for once. But yeah, looking forward to it.
And William, this car, this is the same spec as the upgraded one you would have had in Sardinia, is that right?
Yeah, it's the car that John has been using in the other ERC rounds. So I suppose his good fortune with getting the drive in the Rally 2 car has you know, opened a door there for me as well. So I'm kind of benefiting from that, which is good to see. So yeah, it's got all the upgrades, which is perfect, you know, as I said, running into Estonia. So I'm looking forward to getting it onto the high-speed stages.
Yeah, and a huge benefit there, that extra seat time before Estonia, because I'm presuming you hadn't planned to go to Sweden for this event.
No, it was definitely, it wasn't on my radar until quite last minute, until the news came in. So yeah, it's really good prep, but you know, even in itself to do, you know, an ERC round is brilliant, especially with M Sport. So yeah, it's really cool. I'm just looking forward to getting stuck into it now. It was quite a while since I've been in the ERC. was Rally Rome, I think, which was like one of the first European events that I did, and I think it was 2020, and that's actually probably one of the best events that I've ever done. So we've packed a lot in since then. So I'm looking forward to getting back into the ERC, and it's the championship's flying at the minute. The entry list is crazy how strong it is. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, no, the ERC certainly has gone up a couple of leaps. It's getting very competitive there when you look at that the entry list for the last few rounds. And Patrick, what preparation can you do for this? As you said, like, all the in-car videos and stuff are all when the event traditionally runs as a snow rally. So what will you be able to do in advance of the event to kind of prep yourself?
Well, we obviously get the test before the event. We're doing the organisers test, but we just seen the shakedown was actually used on a small rally in Sweden, which was on gravel. But the rest of these are quite difficult to get. You can just get some sections, but it's very, very limited. So preparation is not very simple there. So we need to make as much as we can on the test and do a good job there. But we'll see. I'll know after the first stage.
But as Conor was saying, the ERC is continuing to go from strength to strength. The quality of the entry, it must be great for you to be able to go there and put yourself up against the best in Europe and beyond. The Hayden Patton and all them guys and Mads Osberg. It must be a pleasure to be able to share a stage with those guys.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And even at the start of the stages, like, they're very, very down to earth guys, and there's no problem asking them a question, and they'll definitely answer the question for you. So you're always learning, even if you're not in the car. If you're standing at the start of the stage, you're learning something. So yeah, it's a good place to be.
And from your point of view, getting an opportunity to do this, we should mention John getting a chance to run in the Rally 2 MRF car. A great opportunity for John.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's very well deserved, and I know it's been something that he's been working on for quite a long time now. So it's nice to see him there, and I'm looking forward to being back at a rally that he's at. The crack was always good when we were doing the juniors. So yeah, it's a good opportunity for him, and I hope that it works out well for him. Obviously, it's going to be difficult with the entry list that is there, but hopefully he can have a good run and get bedded in early.
Yeah, I think Patrick. You've seen John develop. You've seen him, doing the rallies closer to home, the Bushwhacker Lakeland back in the day. Like, he always stood out, didn't he? Even when he was coming up through the ranks.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I just came along probably behind John, so he was always the boy you were trying to beat when you were younger. Like, and he just was that little bit older and that little bit more experienced. But fantastic driver, and as William says, fantastic to see him get that opportunity. And I'll have no doubt that he'll do a job there.
That's for sure. And what a position that this wee country's in at the minute. I talk about the Paddy Power, the likes of yourselves, the MA Rally Academy, what that's bringing to the sport at the minute. You're getting the opportunity to go and do ERC rounds, WRC rounds. And that Ryan Caldwell coming there, had a fantastic run in Donegal, won the Moonraker, Aoife Raftery, Grace O'Brien. The list keeps going on. And then, whenever there is a vacant seat in the WRC or the ERC, well, you come along and fill it. And then, what can we say? We are in a real golden age of rallying at the moment. Well, maybe you'll take that one first.
Yeah, it's. I think the academy should be very proud of what it's achieved in quite a relatively short space of time. So. And everybody that's going to the likes of the ERC or the WRC, there's always a bigger program or process in the background. It's not just going there for a one-off rally. It's all part of a bigger picture. So yeah, it's I suppose from us guys actually competing in the middle of it, we're that focused on what we're doing. It's maybe easy to get sucked in, but yeah, if you stood back and look at it from the outside in, 4 or 5 guys, whatever it is, and Aoife, going there to compete in the European Championship, it's pretty cool, and we're pretty lucky to be a part of it. But hopefully we can get good results to back that up.
Yeah, and Patrick, as you said before, you have so much news going on in your head. Sometimes you don't even know what you're allowed to say because there's so many developments, and it's continuously happening. You've had to keep this one under your hat now for the last few weeks, I would imagine as well. What a fantastic opportunity for somebody like yourself.
Exactly. You have so much you just don't know what to say, but I really can't wait to go to this event. It looks one like I'll really enjoy, and just the experience of learning and what I can bring back to our own team. Like you said, to help young Ryan. I guess it's proved there. Like Ryan just went and done a job last weekend. So yeah, it's all that filters down through the field. So yeah, really good.
Yeah, because like Ryan for me was a star in Donegal. His first time in Tower in the Skoda. And like it could have been so easy, like especially on the Friday, new stages there. They hadn't, we couldn't study any DVDs or nothing. It could have been so easy to do something silly, but no, he kept his head down, done a job, and then when he got onto the classic stages, the pace just kept getting better and better all weekend. Like that's a young guy that's going places.
Exactly, and he's great to work with too. Like he listens to what you're saying, and you're not just telling him for the crack. Like, because I've been there and I've done that, and just like last weekend, I was shocked at how well he managed it, and there was no pressure at all, and he done the crack job that was needed, and it was no problem.
Yeah, because even at the stage ends, he never seemed to get panicked or flustered. He just seemed to take it all in his stride. Like, you think he'd been doing it for the last 10 years. It was just, knock out another time now, and we'll just keep the push on kind of thing.
Exactly, and like I was actually just saying to the boys in the team that I would hit to have their job all the time, stand at the end of that stage when it's the other way about it. That's not so nice. So no, I'd rather be driving.
And like, well, see these younger talent. Like you're still a young man yourself, but there's already new talent coming through. Like the Junior 1000 that you come through yourself in previous years. Like there's a real staircase of talent at the moment.
Yeah, it's great, and even stepping up from the Junior 1000 into the R2s or the Rally 4 class, like I was in Donegal, and the guys that were there and the pace that they were going at, I was in with Joe Kelly before the rally, and I hadn't sat in the passenger seat of too many rally cars, never mind the new Rally 4s. So like the speed of those wee cars now is so impressive, and the suspension's so good. So it shocked me a little bit, and just remind me, how hot that class is. So yeah, it's good. I was actually chatting to someone about it last night, that if there's so much competition, there's someone that you can always look up to, or there's someone that you're always racing that'll bring you on, and that's kind of in every class, from the Junior 1000s to the Rally 4s. So yeah, it's good if you have competition. It'll help you improve.
That's for sure. And Connor, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Patrick, you're bringing your own car over to Sweden, so you have that bit of familiarity. It maybe takes out, does that make it easier for you, I suppose? You're taking out, another unknown, whereas before you were in the Hyundai and that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a bit of work taking it out, but I know the car inside out, and I can test it pretty much whenever I want to test it, because it's sitting in the shade. So definitely, yeah. Probably struggled a little bit with Hyundai, just the difference between the two cars. But I think if you're in it, enough seat time in it, it would work no problem. The car was really good, but just the Skoda, I know it inside out, and I just fits like a glove. So yeah, can't wait to get back out now.
Yeah, and I suppose then be easier for you in a sense to benchmark yourself maybe against some of the other Skoda competitors as well, and maybe if you're picking somewhere to do have that as that benchmark. Exactly,
yeah, and like I know how hard I can push the Skoda, and when it's starting to get a wee bit maybe out of hand, then I know to bring it back a little bit, and that's kind of where where the benchmark is. With the Hyundai, it was a little bit different, because I was trying to learn the car and learn the rallies, and there's just so much going on, but that was a fantastic opportunity, and it was brilliant. I learned so much there that I can bring back to my own team and my own car. And yeah, it was. I don't think I've ever done anything like that before.
And William, for yourself, John has done very well in the RC3. Is there a bit of pressure on there, to keep up the level he's been putting that car at?
Yeah, I'm sure John will not forget to tell that. Yeah, it's there's always ERC, like we said, the entry list is class. So yeah, I've no doubt that there's going to be a lot of quick guys there. So I suppose from my side, it's kind of easy. I just need to go and try and drive as fast as I can, and get onto a good pace and try and do the best job that I can, and enjoy it, and hopefully that'll set us up well for Estonia. So yeah, there's always pressure, I suppose.
Yeah.
And probably doesn't help. He's going to be there looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, hopefully I can give it back to him as good as he'll give it to me, I'm sure. So, yeah, it'll be good fun.
Yeah. And I think before we end, we should say another man in the Skoda was Liam Regan in Donegal. The interest that car, in Donegal was unbelievable. The historic Skoda coming near the end of the field. Everywhere he went, there was always people cheering and shouting for him. Great to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. We were joking, we weren't sure it was going to make it up the hill at Knockalla, but yeah, it's good to see it. And to be fair, that was 2 big days of rallying, on the Saturday and the Sunday, and the car got round and the guys had a ball. So yeah, I think they loved it. I think it was always on Liam's bucket list, to do it, and I think a bit of family history there with the Skodas. So yeah, I was down at the rally myself, and I know they had a ball and it all went to plan. So yeah, maybe have to get him to do it and something a bit quicker maybe next time.
And Callum
He's still a bit of a driver. He's not fully converted co-driver just yet.
And Callum obviously wants to go as well too. I've seen him get a photo taking the driver's seat as well.
Yeah, I saw that. It was good to see Callum get the win in Donegal. It was the footage at the end of the last stage was nice to see.
That's for sure. And Patrick, another Skoda driver, but we spoke about Ryan coming up through the ranks as well. The Skoda still has it. We know how close all these R5 are together. It doesn't matter. The Skoda is maybe 2 years or so now behind development with the new car, but the one you have and the one Ryan has still every bit as capable of producing the goods.
Yeah, exactly. I think when Skoda built it first, they built a brilliant car. So it's just probably a bit of work to do on the tarmac now. I think me and Ryan will do that. That'll be the next thing. I think we have it pretty good on the gravel. So if we can get it on the tarmac and see what we can do there. But we weren't so far away in Galway when I got my head around how fast you can go around corners in it. But yeah, Skoda, I don't see anything wrong with it, to be honest. It's a good car.
It's great to be able to bring you the breaking news. It's just only coming out there this afternoon, Connor. It's just, I think we have to just react when there's news like that comes out.
Oh, listen, it's just the news is too good to pass up. And again, huge thanks to Patrick and William for taking their time out there, up to their eyes. So really do appreciate the fact that they come on to chat to us about it.
That's for sure. That was was that all organised within a couple of hours? So fair play to the two boys. That was a big ask of them. So that was season 2, episode 20. Can you please rate, share, subscribe, comment? Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, it's greatly appreciated. The numbers is fantastic. We can't highlight enough what you're doing. It's really appreciated. So until next time, take care, speak soon, and bye.